Hello, and welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
This is the podcast about murders and so much more. We will talk about anything strange, anything that goes bump in the night, and pretty much anything that amuses us.
And on that note, we need to mention that this podcast is not safe for work or delicate ears, so do be discerning who you listen to it with.
We also want to let you know that you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, so look for us there.
I am Shannon Lawrence. I am a writer, mom, wife, student, procrastinator, and you can find me at thewarriormuse.com.
My name is MB Partlow. I am a writer, an avid reader, an organizer extraordinaire, a mom to kids, cats, and a dog, and I call bullshit when I see it.
All right, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So swell.
I'm a little sweaty, apparently. That's all I'm going to say. It's a little warm.
It's a little warm outside. It's freaking mid-September.
I know. We'd already had snow last year, a week ago at this time.
Yeah. It's so funny when I get married. And we had, so the previous year, we also had snow later into the spring than we did this past year because the memories pop up.
Exactly.
And we'd already put up our above ground pool, our nice white trash adornment of our house. And I have video of us doing, not me, I'm not crazy, of the rest of my family doing like a polar plunge.
Oh, burr.
In the snow.
I remember that.
I know. But then it was hot. It's hot this year.
It is.
I'm done with 90s bullshit. Like, the whole reason I live in Colorado is it's temperate, but I guess it's not anymore.
I will say the nights are finally getting cooler.
They are. In fact, we've been chasing off the porch earlier than usual lately.
I still am sleeping with the bedroom windows open, but because it is cooler outside, I did turn off the overhead fan.
Jeez.
Joe's got like 3 blankets, and he's like, what the fuck is wrong with her?
You sleep better if you're cold. I mean, not freezing, but cold.
Oh, the worst, though, was when I was pregnant with thing 1, because I was just like a furnace. And he was like, do you think I could shut the window? And I'm like, well, and he goes, there's actual snow coming in the window now in December.
Can we please?
Fine.
I will say I've been eyeballing, because the nights are getting colder and it's colder in my bedroom. I've been eyeballing the down blanket, the down comforter, because eventually that goes on, Yep. There have been a couple nights, like 2 so far, where I'm just freezing even under the blankets, which means Jeffrey gets an ice cube against his back.
I know you can't do this, but a dog is good for that too. You let the dog curl up against the small of your back, the heat radiates in, you're good to go.
I can't even. So
the
here's
whole
what we learned
thing
at our cabin. We can't even have the cats in there, because then I have that mental thing where you don't move or you'll disturb them, and then I can't sleep. I literally can't sleep. So anyway, we've learned now. So we went to Breckenridge and we slept in what was maybe like a little queen bed. I'm not sure. I don't have some magical knowledge of mattress sizes, so I didn't sleep the whole time because it just couldn't, because A, it was super soft and we rolled into the middle, but B, there was somebody in my space. So we have a king bed. And at our cabin, we have the one that this bed is an antique. It belonged to my great grandparents, and who knows before then. I mean, we've switched out the box springs and the mattress, but it's still the frame, and it's a twin or double or whatever. Yeah, a double. And oh my God, we cannot sleep together in that bed up there. So we're like, all right, we're gonna have to actually cough it up eventually and get a king. Like, I'm just gonna get the little metal basic thing they give you. And because we don't need a fancy bed up there, but we apparently need a king so I can sleep, because even he couldn't sleep, and he's a champion sleeper, but we're both not used to having somebody in our space.
Like, just
even when I have to,
your air.
Yes. If I have to press against him for warmth, then that's like 5 minutes until I warm him up, and then I must roll away.
Yes.
So, yeah, we both very much have come to need our space.
I need to look and see if there's a way, because we have what's going to go into our eventual spare bedroom. I'm putting this out there so it will come true. It's a double bed frame. It's the wood headboard, and it was in my bedroom when I was growing up, and the footboard is really nice. And I'm like, is there any way I can convert that so that I could at least have a queen size bed in the bedroom, in the spare bedroom?
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be a way to do that.
You would think that there'd be some sort
Or
of
even if I
extended-
can just attach it to one of those cheap metal things, even if it's not quite wide
I
enough.
could swear I've seen like a roll out and raise up twin type thing, so you could put a little twin next to it. Isn't that what the little slim one person?
You
It's
mean
like what my
the
teens sleep
trundle
on.
bed?
Yeah, but it's not. So there's ones that roll out from underneath, right? And then, but there's ones that are meant to be like lifted so that it's adjacent to the bed to expand. I don't know. We talked about also, we're like, maybe we don't get a king mattress. Maybe we just get another double. And we put them next to each other, up against each other. And then we won't even disturb the other person when we move at all because we have our own mattress, but we can roll over for the cuddle time, you know. And then in the meantime, before we're trying to actually sleep. I was like, whatever. That would be cheaper.
Yeah, it would.
Just it would be like a 50s family with her. If I'm mad at him, I just push my mattress, my bed over.
The little not Mary Tyler Moore, the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Always have a foot on the floor.
The Lucy Show. Yes, the twin beds. I'm like, I remember the first time I saw those shows when I was a little kid, and I was like, even though I was so young, I thought, what the fuck?
I did too. I think I asked my parents because I was like, I knew that they slept in one bed.
Did people actually do that? I didn't believe it. But then as I got older, like a friend of mine, I won't name names, because it's, anyway. But when I remember her telling me her parents slept in separate rooms. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. And of course, now I know people
I have friends who,
for a variety of reasons.
And I did have a friend then who they slept, because I remember going upstairs for something, and I was like, who sleeps in this room? Because, I mean, she had two siblings, but I knew where their rooms were. And she's like, my dad. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's like,
what? Because he's smart, I think. And so they just
that's usually
better married couple.
Yes.
So both of those answer. But I like having somebody's presence near me. I just don't want them touching me. Unless I want them touching me, to be perfectly clear. So it's not like I'm an ice queen, but I need my space. Unless I want you in my space. And sometimes I do. But not when I'm trying to sleep.
Alrighty then. What'd you watch on TV this week?
Well,
before this devolves.
So TV, we've been watching we watch a bunch of like game show stuff. Because we'll have dinner on the back patio all together at the table, and we'll put on like a little. So we've been watching Wipeout and Holy Moly on there.
I know what Wipeout is.
So we've been watching Wipeout from the beginning because we can, and with the host that we liked, because it went to like other people, and we were just like,
is that the one?
It has John Henson.
They're trying to cross an obstacle course and they get knocked in the water.
Yeah, and so there's like these big red balls is their big. I don't know, brand thing.
Oh, okay.
But people have to try and run across these four big bouncy. They're like trampoline balls, basically.
Can you believe some of those people, when they fall, don't snap their necks?
Oh my God, yeah, we were watching. Jeff was like, he watched the first season, and then we started watching it together, and the first season, they didn't have these skirts on the bottom, and one person literally got stuck, like, in the metal between the things. So the next, they had these big skirts, right? But I was like, I don't understand. Like, I would be in so much pain after some of the pratfalls people take, because literally they slam their head and it bends backwards on their neck, and I'm like, or they kick themselves in their heads like my daughter did when she fell, because she was so flexible. Like, she would totally kick herself in the head.
Or they like belly flop. Or they land on their midsection. Like, they misjudge their jump, and I'm like, okay, so you've just landed, woof, and all the wind knocked out of you, but then you've bounced off or slid off.
And then you're in the water, not able to.
Falling into the water.
Yeah, but I laugh my happy ass off watching that show, because except when it looks like somebody's going to pay for it later, and then I'm like, that's not funny, I don't like it. But it's like on the blooper shows and stuff, like Funniest Home Videos, whenever they'd show somebody who was clearly like 80 years old falling, Jeff and I would just watch it and go, no, that's not funny. Why'd they put that in here? That person probably broke a bone. Stop it. But anyway, and then Holy Moly is a golf show. And it has... Okay, it's miniature golf, and they have to do sorts of things kind of like Wipeout, where they have to say, okay, so here's one. So they putt first, right? It's always two people against each other, and then there's 3 sets, and then this person will go on to go against this one, so on. Okay, so like 4 sets. And then there's ultimately one winner. So Rob Riggle is a comedian who's in a bunch of movies, and I know if you saw him, you'd recognize him, but I don't know how to tell you what he's in.
I do know.
Okay.
I do know who you mean.
He's a big guy. I think he's actually an ex-football player or something like that, I found out.
And he kind of has
or I don't know.
Yes, I can't describe his
big,
look
goofy,
at all.
brunette guy.
Yeah.
So he's on there, and then there's kind of a more serious foil, just like Wipeout. You know, you have the goofy guy and the other guy who's kind of trying to really announce shit next to the comedian. So anyway, one of the things is, so they always putt, and then there's something they have to, an obstacle of some sort. So one of them, it's a row of outhouses or porta potties, and they get a little thing to go, and they have to run, and then after X number of seconds, the porta potty doors open, and if they get flung into like this muddy pit of water with like, yeah, and they're all in costumes in the porta potty. So it's just the goofy stuff like that. Or there's a thing that's like Plinko was, where boop, 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 but you have to golf up, and then it goes down, and then you see where it comes out to show you where you're going to shoot from.
Oh my God.
And then they're also legit playing miniature golf. It's funny though, because the golf pros do the worst by far on that show. So anyway, we've been watching that because it's entertaining and it's just something light to have in the background.
It would be.
Yeah.
I just discovered a new series, new to me. I think it is fairly new. I mean, I discover things 10 years after it's gone off the air.
Like, hey!
But it's called Surreal Estate.
Yeah.
And it's this, it's really funny because the main character, of course I don't know his name, but Sarah Levy is in it. She was in Schitt's Creek.
The blonde waitress.
She played the waitress. Yeah. Brunette, kind of reddish brown hair. Love her. So she's in it, and it's this real estate company that comes in when you have a disturbance in your house, but they very carefully do not mention the word ghost or the G word. It's like if your house has a bad history, if there's something, somebody killed themselves there, we're going to come in and we're going to sell your house and we're going to get you your asking price. The guy who plays the main character who owns the real estate company, he just has the most beautiful face. He's just gorgeous. I mean, he's got this square chin, this square jaw, and high cheekbones, and and dark hair. He's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm like, where the hell has he been hiding? Of course, somebody's going to watch this and go, oh my God, he's been in 47 things. Where have you been? So it's him and an ex-priest. I can't remember what his name is, an ex-priest. And then there's the guy who makes all their proprietary equipment, like the glasses that let you see the ghosts. And this really snarky, tattooed, pierced office manager. So when it opens, Sarah Levy's character is coming in. She's been a very highly successful, regular, straight realtor.
Oh.
And she gets hired by this company because other than the owner, everybody else is kind of not very good at dealing with the public. And they know that she can do this. So she comes in and she gets through her first one. And there are other stories, and it's more drama than comedy, but there are some very funny moments in it.
Okay.
I highly recommend.
So I thought you were saying Sir Real Estate, like SIR, but you're saying Surreal Estate.
Yes.
Okay.
Surreal. Surreal. SURREAL.
Okay.
Estate.
Got you.
I feel like I'm slurring my words.
Surreal.
Slurring my words.
I don't know, what movies have you watched?
Oh, I know why you're asking. So for the listeners, so one evening I messaged Shannon and Patrick, and I said, "Is it worth what I say, $3.99?
Yeah, something like that.
$2.99 to watch John Wick?" Because I've heard about John Wick. I've always heard about John Wick, but I've never seen it. And I can watch 2 and 3 for free, but I have to pay to watch the first one. And of course, they both said yes. And they warned me, this is a spoiler alert. It happens very early in the movie. I feel like everybody knows this.
Yeah.
But the kind of catalyst for this whole killing spree is that the
puppy.
They kill his dog. They kill his puppy. So I'm like, it's so funny because my husband walks through the living room and I said, "Oh, I'm watching John Wick." I said, "Don't worry, I already know they're going to kill his dog." My husband's like, "Okay." And he comes back there and I'm sitting there just sobbing. And he looks at me and I said, "It was a beagle puppy." And he's like, oh God, you're going to jump in the TV and kill those fuckers yourself.
Now you understand why he had to go kill everybody.
I do. And I have now watched John Wick 2.
Yeah.
Which was
he's the boogeyman? Is that it?
Yes.
With Peter.
I don't know his name. I don't know anybody's name. I know my name most days. So yes, I watched 1 and 2, and that's all that I can remember. I might have watched something else, but those are. And I was like, Keanu, I really enjoy him in these roles.
It's good.
So,
and he said as long as people like it, he'll keep doing it.
Yeah. So there's only 3, right?
So far.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait.
I think there's supposed to be a 4th at some point.
Okay.
But yeah, I really like them. But they're pretty violent.
Oh, I know what it was that I liked about them. When they're fighting, because usually when you see choreographed fight scenes, everybody's punching or kicking each other. He gets on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
They're on the ground a whole lot. And I feel like, okay, don't get me wrong. I know this is Hollywood. But I felt like their style of fight choreography was a skosh more realistic. Because he's using his body weight. He's not doing all fancy, dancy moves that...
It's good. And I mean, Keanu Reeves is really good about, in his interviews, he said, who does the choreography? Yes. He always gives credit to his stunt doubles and stuff. But also, Keanu Reeves always learns. I mean, he learned martial arts for Matrix, right? He learned shooting. I know there's been a recent video going around on social media that he was really fucking good. They were like, you're a natural, because he's going through this course, and it's kind of like one of the police courses where, and so there's things moving, and you have to decide if you're going to shoot this thing, and he's just dead on because he learned stuff. I mean, he's very interested in knowing what he's doing and not being as fake about it.
Yes. And in John Wick 2, Lawrence Fishburne has a role.
Oh, yeah, he's not in 1? Oh, I don't remember. I
don't.
I thought he...
No. The pigeons. That's in number 2.
Yeah, the pigeons. Yeah, I love them together.
So it's a little Matrix flashback.
Yeah, he's in 3 too.
Oh,
so, good. You know. And I believe he'll be in 4.
Nice.
So I just didn't remember he wasn't in 1.
So what have you watched?
So these are kind of related, which is why I wanted to say these.
Oh, that's right.
Watched some movies. So I watched 2 like chick power action flicks, right?
Nice.
I watched Jolt, which has Kate Beckinsale. It's on Amazon, and hers is more like so she has an anger issue.
I can't imagine what drew you to this.
Exactly. I turned to like the first 5 minutes of the movie. I turned to Jeff and I said, I didn't know this movie was about me. And so to train her anger, because she can't control it, she gets this kind of electrical harness, thus the name Jolt. And so when she feels herself getting agitated, she pushes the button. They explain it as like an adrenal thing, and
I don't know. I think shocking myself would just make me madder.
Right? But it's a really good shock. So, yeah, she gets involved. It's very twisty-turny. There's for who the bad guy is, really, and all this stuff. So that one's good. It's good action because she meets a guy, finally, who doesn't care that she's got this electrical harness on. Doesn't, they get along, and she has sex for probably the first time in forever because she doesn't let herself get close to people. Right. She's afraid of what she'll do to him. And then he gets killed. Yeah. And so she starts hunting down who it is.
Good.
And then, I was excited. So the 2 cops that are investigating his death or whatever, you'd recognize them both. I'm going to try and remember what their names are, but you'd recognize them if you saw them. But anyway, so the one cop is the trans woman from Orange is the New Black. That's where she started.
Okay.
And so I was just excited to see her in just as, it's just her role. There's no commentary, because of course movies always want to make they want to make the point that they're being woke or whatever. And so, but they don't. She's just her. So anyway, I love that. And it's, damn it, I almost had his name too for a second. It's Bobby something. But they're good playing off each other because she is one cold bitch, this other cop, right? And he kind of has a thing for Kate Beckinsale's character. And so
What's he been in?
Oh, I'm not even going to try. Because then we'd sit here with me going,
Because when you said Bobby, I realized that...
it's like Bobby Cannavale or something. Cannavale.
That's him?
Yeah, I think so.
Because he's in Nine Perfect Strangers. That's the actor whose name
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't
yes.
think of.
Yes, it's him.
Oh, I love him. He was on, the first time I saw him was on Will and Grace.
Yeah, I mean, so it's two, like, the cops, they're people
nice.
you like outside of the show, right? And so, but he's very endearing in it.
Oh, good.
And she's a cold ass bitch. But I also love that she's a cold ass bitch, except I kept going, a cop wouldn't do that! That's not real!
It's Hollywood.
I know. So anyway, and the other one was Kate, and that one has Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and she's in a lot of things. So, like,
what's that one on?
I don't remember.
Okay.
So she's the brunette from Birds of Prey?
Yes.
Who has, like, she's the bow and arrow one, the crossbow gal. And she's also the daughter, John McClane's daughter in the Die Hard with Tech in it. I don't remember if she's in the other ones, but I know she's in that. I think. Anyway, so this one, I felt here's the things that it reminded me of. So Gunpowder Milkshake, which we talked about in a previous episode, and there's even a child involved in it, and it made me think of that because she's kind of protecting this child type thing, and I'm just like, could we not have a child involved with a female-led action flick? Jolt doesn't. So just throwing that out there. Not enough to turn me off the movie, just that moment where I was like, rolled my eyes because I was like, oh, here we go. She's going to have to protect the child because she has tits. So
her ovaries.
That's right. And it's a little bit La Femme Nikita / Point of No Return, right? So in that she's been brought up as her starts earlier, but as this killer. And things go terribly wrong. And I'm going to throw this one out here and I have to explain it. In Crank, which had Jason Statham in it, where his heart is going. Okay, so Crank is a really crazy action flick. There's two of them. And he's been poisoned or something like that, and his heart is just pounding, and he's going to have a heart attack. Like, it's going to lead to... So it's going to stop. So he has to keep himself amped for both of the whole movies. There we go. I was going in the wrong direction there. So his heart is going to stop and slow. So he has to keep doing things that trigger adrenaline. Okay?
Oh, my.
Yeah. So anyway, it reminded me of that, but it's not the same.
Okay.
It's just that ticking clock aspect of it. So in this, she gets dosed with a extremely high single dose of radiation.
That's in, excuse me, that's in the trailer, I think.
Yes. So it's not a secret or anything like that.
Yeah.
And she's going to die, period. There's nothing they can do about this. And so she has it's like 24 hours or something, or I think less actually, to get back at the person who did it. Find out who did it and kill them. But, of course, it becomes about much, much more. It's not that simplistic, ultimately, which is good, because that's a pretty simplistic plot. So, anyway, I liked them both. There's good action. It's very John Wicky in like, a female way. And I'm enjoying this run of female action flicks.
I could enjoy that.
Yeah. And the women who are in them are doing a good job. I mean, Kate Beckinsale was already in all the Underworld films, so she's not a stranger to action flicks. And that seems to be mostly what Mary Elizabeth Winstead does at this point.
I will check both of those out.
Yeah.
Have you read anything?
I did.
What did you read?
I did. Okay, so this one I saved until I graduated. I've been saving this whole time. It's called Climb, Leaving Safe and Finding Strength on 100 Summits in Japan. And it's by Susan Spann.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so the brief backstory is she had planned to do this. She loved Japan. She'd been out to visit it, and she decided that she was going to, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name because I wouldn't pronounce it right. There's a set of, I think, 100 summits in Japan. There's a shit ton of mountains in Japan, by the way. Wow. And... but these ones it's like Hayakume-san or something like that. They're ones that are important for a certain reason. And so she had decided she was going to climb them. She got a breast cancer. She found out she had breast cancer, and she went through the treatments and everything. And she pretty much, right after, she kept going. She hit the ground running. She hadn't grown her hair back. She was still,
wow.
I mean, and she was out there, and she started doing it. And she was going to climb 100 summits in 1 year. So it's an inspirational story. It's not a grief porn story, though. I mean, it's not her complaining or anything, or woe is meing, or trying to get that negative attention for the breast cancer. It comes into it, but it's just here was this thing that happened, really, while the rest of us are like, holy shit, girl. But yeah, so it's really good. And it's her story of climbing these summits. I was fascinated because we live in a mountainous area here in Colorado, of course, how they cater to people who want to climb these mountains. And so there's stuff like there's ropeways that go up. And like if there's a place that you have to climb, for example, like a rocky area, they'll have a rope already there. It's just there. So nobody's having to do clamp-ons and stuff. Like they just climb this rope, or there's a ladder here, or there's like, like one of them, it was a kind of a 2-day climb to have to do it. And so there's these little sleep cubes that are heated, and there's little restaurants or cafes or whatever in a bunch of them, or little stands, and you can get pins for each one, like a pin on your shirt, pins for the summit that you climbed.
Wow.
And she's meeting people who are doing the same thing. It was pretty cool.
That's fascinating.
And she definitely makes Japan sound good, let me tell you. So, I mean, she talks about the food in it a lot too, which I think she might have an upcoming project around that part of it.
Nice.
But anyway, it's just, I was like, no wonder they're healthy, but it sounds good. Like, we make healthy food here and it's for shit. Maybe that's our secret. I mean, that's their secret, is they're like, well, it's going to be healthy, and but we're going to make it taste good for you instead of making it feel like a punishment that you can't eat all beef all the time.
And let's make kale as unappetizing as possible.
Right. So,
which is not hard.
No, and it's just such neat little dishes, because she's posted them on her Facebook page. There's some pictures, but not of food, I don't think, in her book. But there's some pictures of, because there's shrines, religious shrines and stuff like that, and some of them, that's pretty cool.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah.
Actually, I know where it is. It's sitting
It's
right
there
behind
you.
me.
I'll have to look for, there it is. So it was kind of the perfect, I saved it because I wanted to read something that I knew was going to inspire me before I started jumping back into the writing stuff again. So,
well, that's good.
See, I've had that sucker sitting there for a year. What did you read?
I don't even know where I got this. I don't know where I heard about it. It's an urban fantasy. Sometimes I play, I don't have a Kindle, I have a tablet. So sometimes I play tablet roulette, and I just read the next book that comes out. Yeah. So this was A Drop of Magic by L.R. Braden.
Okay.
And it's this woman. I really enjoyed it, because sometimes you can get burnt out on any genre. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I do get burnt out on urban fantasy, but I haven't read a lot lately. So it's this woman, and she's an artist, and it's set here in Colorado, and she's a metal worker, and she's a sculptor. And of course, that's not paying her bills. So she works part-time in a bookstore. And she's a little bit of a loner. She does have a couple of friends, but one of her friends is killed. And these people show up. These two guys show up, and she's working at the forge. She has a forge in her shop. That's what for her metalworking. And they want to know where the silver box is. And she's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I can make you one, but I don't know.
Yeah. Do you want, is this a commission? I think that is one of the first things she says. Is this a commission you're talking about? And they're like, no. One of them grabs her arm, and she's been backing away. It's really built up nicely how creeped out she is by these two guys, and she's backing away, but she's still got the tongs in one hand. And when the guy grabs her, she swings it and hits him. What she's not prepared for is for his skin to peel away from his face and for him to be a completely different being. So as it evolves, there has been a war between humankind and the Fae. And there's a truce, and there are reservations, and this guy was Fae. And when you hit him with iron, of course, bad reaction. It just is and there are half Fae, and it just was, I thought it was really well done. It didn't trip my trope trigger.
Trip your trope trigger. Well done.
I didn't even know I was going to
came out.
Till it came out. And halfway through, I went, oh, fuck, I hope I can say this without going blah, 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 blah. But no, there are 3 or 4 more in the series, so I'm like, I'm going to find those and read them.
Admittedly, yeah, I did burn out on urban fan, because I dove into it like full force when I discovered it, because for me it was like horror, but laced into the real world, and I loved that. So when it became a thing, I was just all in. I think I read all Laurel K. Hamilton stories that she already had out and caught up on that. And then it was Kelly Armstrong and Kim Harrison.
Bonus, there is no magic penis in this.
Yay! Sorry to those who like that trope.
Yeah, that's... Ugh.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that I'd completely like dropped off, and because I even like Jim Butcher, I'm way behind, kind of stopped that ages ago. So like all those books that I was just devouring. I haven't done it.
I even read, I can't remember the name of it. I even read a romance, which is not regularly in my rotation, but I do pick them up now and then. I got really excited because I thought these two women main characters were realizing they were attracted to each other, but alas, they were attracted to each other's, one is attracted to the other one's twin brother. And I was like, you had a really good opportunity right there. And it's like, yep, magic penises all around.
All around.
Let's have a round
for
of magic
everybody.
penises.
You get one and you get one. All right. Well, on that note.
Okay. So you're going to start this time.
I am. If you're thinking of starting a podcast or even just starting to research it, Buzzsprout is your go-to source for information and hosting. They have tons of videos and write-ups on everything you need to know about recording and distributing a podcast, and they even provide easy ways to get analytics on how your podcast is doing. We use Buzzsprout for our podcast hosting, and through them we've been able to connect with tons of resources and distributors. Following a link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you, gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and help support our show. A win-win. Not only do they help you get started, but they also do small things to encourage you, such as awarding you badges as you hit various milestones. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. So let's just call this one Going Postals.
Okay.
Sources. Today I found out. That's what it's called. Oh. Wikipedia, New York Daily News, History.com, New York Times, Orlando Sentinel, United Press International, LA Times, and Listverse. Because I was trying to get more information on stuff.
You fancy.
Now... This kind of goes with my trend lately.
Oh, yes.
And here's why I thought of this, because I used the term
going
the other
postal.
day. I said something about somebody going postal, and I was like, hey, that totally fits in with my theme. I should do it. So I did.
Debunk it.
Boom, boom. Well, and so this one isn't, like, I thought it was based off one event. I think I just remember them being in the press so much, because this was when... It started in like 86, I guess I'd say. And I'm going to go through like the end of the 90s. I didn't go past that. But I remember this shit being in the news. It was when I was a teenager. And probably preteen for the early ones. But so it is something that just kind of was part of the mishmash of this is the world as I was growing up, right? And so I was around when Going Postal became Going Postal. The term itself has been around since the 90s, even though the issues started in 86. And that's going off of the first known use of it is in a publication called St. Petersburg Times, December 17th, 1993. That's the first known published use of Going Postal, meaning this slang term. So for those who don't know, and I realize at least the vast majority of you probably do, it refers to basically implying someone's losing it. They've snapped. And it can imply workplace violence or that that's coming, but it isn't always used for that. So, again, I thought it was one specific instance, but it was multiple events that have all rolled up together in my head. So I separated them out, and I'm just going to briefly tell you. I'm going to tell you the one big one, the one at the beginning, that really did sort of start it all rolling. But then I'll tell you briefly about some other ones. So the first instance often cited, so I'm not guaranteeing this is the first one, but it was a big one, and therefore it's the one that stands out, was the Edmond post office shooting. It was perpetrated by Patrick Sherrill, Sherill, in Edmond, Oklahoma, on August 20th, 1986. So this one's Wikipedia entry actually says it's the origin of the term, but again, I think it's more a mixed bag, especially as it didn't come until almost a decade later. And Wikipedia also states that this is still the deadliest workplace shooting in history. I can't confirm or deny that. I didn't go research that to check. Cheryl had been in the Marine Corps and was an expert marksman and member of the National Guard pistol team. How many stories do I have to tell about people we've trained to kill in this way who we then don't take care of when we bring them home before something happens? Anyway, He'd actually been a problematic loner who couldn't keep a job since before his time in the military. He'd roamed around. He couldn't stick with one job. He'd get tired of them. He'd get fired. He'd quit, whatever. And when the incident occurred, he had moved back in with his mother. One article said he would strap strays to his fence with barbed wire, and that neighborhood kids would actually often sneak into his yard to save them.
Oh, God, that's horrible.
And he was called Crazy Pat by the neighbors. In general, he was known to be a peeping Tom as well. There was a laundry list of other things. I only saw the strays thing in one, so I do not know for sure that it's a fact. At work, he was considered a relief worker, which meant he had to switch routes frequently to cover people. So there was inconsistency in his job. He didn't like it, but he was basically lowest on the totem pole. Now I should probably do that saying, no, I'm just kidding. There were about 100 people working in his office. Okay. On August 19th, he got reprimanded by 2 supervisors, Richard Esser Jr. and Bill Bland, for his performance. The next day, at right around 7 a.m., he came into work and shot Esser, but he was unable to find Bland because, as it turned out, he had overslept and he got to work an hour late that day, which saved his life.
Oh, my God.
So Cheryl chased some people down because, everybody scattered. A lot of people hid. Some people ran outside. He chased them outside, couldn't get them, pulled the door shut, locked it so nobody could get out, and then started systematically going through and shooting the people that he came across who were hiding.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. 14 people were killed, 6 hospitalized. He ultimately shot himself in the head, ending his rampage. The people he killed were clerks, supervisors, and carriers. It took him only 15 minutes to do this. And this is a recurring theme. I don't say how long they all are because it's not always mentioned. But these workplace shootings happen like this. It's over in a matter of minutes. You live or you die. And I think that's part of what's so terrifying for people is that this place you have to go every day. You could be in danger. But not only that, it's so fucking fast. And I will say, it's impressive. The cop response time back in the 80s and the 90s they were there within minutes.
Wow.
But of course, now we don't believe in paying enough in taxes to actually have that happen. So we're understaffed and population's grown so fast, so it just can't happen anymore. Mm-hmm. But just realizing that cops really could respond that fast in the past. Mm-hmm. Because what you see in the movies, from then too, and it's hard to believe now. Because it just doesn't work that way. Anyway, by the time Bill Bland arrived at work, it had been 45 minutes since the rampage. Because he was an hour late, if you think about that.
Wow.
All but one of the guns he used in the shooting were property of the National Guard because he taught marksmanship for them. So apparently he got to check them out and bring them home. And so he did have one personal weapon. The rest were all from work. And I mean, the people who were hiding he was an expert marksman. He taught it. They had no chance. Mm-mm. They had and that's kind of the good thing going forward in these other stories. And most of them, they weren't marksmen. Right. They didn't have that history. And so the body counts is lower. All right. In December of 1988, Warren Murphy got into an argument with his supervisor, Leonard King, at the New Orleans post office. Murphy's wife had recently left him and took his kids with her, and so he was already having a bunch of emotional instability and issues. He shot his supervisor in the face, then fired on other employees before locking himself in a locker room. The police standoff lasted all night, but he finally turned himself in. Only 3 people were injured. His supervisor lived, but was blind in the eye in which he'd been shot.
Oh my God.
And so Warren Murphy was sentenced to 16 years in prison. August 1989, John Taylor shot and killed his wife while she lay in bed. Then went to the Orange Glen post office in Escondido, California, where he worked. Despite firing about 20 rounds, he killed only 2 people and injured 1. And I realize I'm saying only about people dying, but I'm just comparing that to the big one.
Right.
Then he shot himself in the head. His kids discovered a suicide note afterwards where he told them he did what he had to do and apologized to them for the shooting. He had been known as a mellow and friendly man. He had no previous complaints, unlike most of these other people. And just nobody had issues with him. He didn't have aggression issues. And he just, he snapped. Joseph Harris was born in prison and known to have psychiatric problems. In April 1990, he was fired from his job at the Ridgewood Post Office in Ridgewood, New Jersey. He started stockpiling weapons until 2 years later. So he was plotting revenge for a long time. A broker named Roy Edwards, his firm went under and Harris lost about $10,000. And apparently this is what finally set him off. Harris dressed up as a ninja. Basically, he wore all black combat clothing and then a black mask, a black hood, more like. Broke into Edward's house, again, that's his broker, where he tied them all up, sexually assaulted the man's wife and 2 daughters. I did not find how old they were. Then shot Roy Edwards to death. It sounds so he left the females alive. On October 9th, 1991, he broke into his former supervisor's house where he murdered her. Her name was Carol Ott, with a samurai sword. And he shot her fiance. He came in, the fiance was still up downstairs in the living room. He shot him, went upstairs to the bedroom, and sliced her up. The next day, he went to the post office where he'd previously worked and killed 2 former co-workers with a gun. A 4-hour standoff with police followed, leading to his arrest. His lawyer argued for insanity because Harris kept telling the psychiatrist he was driven by the ninja spirit to commit the crimes.
I think I remember that one.
Okay. I mean, it stands out.
It was the whole ninja thing, and it's like, what?
Yeah, he was a ninja, and he had a ninja spirit, but he was convicted for both, and he was sentenced to death in 1992, but died of natural causes in prison in 96. So, November 14th, 1991, Thomas McIlvaine slipped into the loading dock at the Detroit post office where he'd been fired for time card fraud and insubordination, for which he'd just lost an appeal on the 8th. So that a week before. Unlike other postal shooters, he did not randomly shoot people, but went after those he saw connected with his case specifically or who had angered him in the past. Gotcha. So there was actually a woman he grabbed and he said, "You're not who I'm after." And he let her go at the beginning. He killed 3 employees and injured 7 others with a sawed-off shotgun before shooting himself. 3 other employees were injured when they tried to escape out second-story windows. The shooting started at 8:48 a.m. and lasted 6 minutes.
Damn.
He had lost his concealed carry permit because police had reported him as having serious mental problems. And there's not much they can do until he does something. But he had lost the permit. Other employees did state that he was being harassed by the new management at the post office. So there were employees who said that he was being victimized, which is interesting. However, many customers on his route had reported grievances with him, so he did have issues. Okay, in May 6, 1993, Larry Jasion, it's Jasion, killed 2 coworkers, injured 1, then had a 6-hour standoff with police before he killed himself in Dearborn, Michigan. The reason for the shooting was that they had given a woman, Sandra Brandstatter, a job he'd applied for, and he felt he deserved it. He'd been with the post office for 20 years and had 26 guns registered with police. Brandstatter had reported threats from him to federal officials via the post office, right? And he told a previous supervisor that one day he'd come in and shoot everyone. The federal officials cleared him and said he was lucid, perfectly sane man. He didn't pose a danger. So Brandstatter paid for their inaction with her life, as did the one other person. Damn. On the same day, but in Dana Point in California, same day, Mark Richard Hilbin shot a couple fellow employees, killing one after having been suspended several months earlier for harassing a female employee. He was stalking her. He would follow her on her routes.
Oh.
Her name was Kim Springer. The supervisor was in the process trying to get him fired, so he was suspended, but was likely going to get fired for the stalking. Hilbin shot the 2 employees, fired several shots into the postmaster's door, tried to rob someone working in the garage, then walked out of the building, got into a pickup with a kayak on the top rack, and drove away. And they said he was very calm throughout. He just walked calmly through all of this. He then shot a woman 6 times because he was trying to steal the magnetic signage from her vehicle, and she caught him because he was trying to disguise his truck.
Okay.
And then he tried to rob several people at ATMs, and he shot 2 of the 3 of them as well. All the victims survived, other than what I've already stated. So all these people he shot out on the road, they survived. When police apprehended him, he was drinking a beer at a bar, and they had televised what was going on, and the bartender or somebody recognized him and called him in. They discovered he had stabbed his mother to death and slit her dog's throat before going to the post office that day.
Oh, God.
He claimed insanity, saying he thought the world was ending, and had gone to work to kidnap Springer, who had a restraining order on him, by the way, so they could be Adam and Eve and restart the world after it ended. Springer had seen him enter the post office, and she'd hidden, so she did survive. It took her years to get past blaming herself because he killed people because of her, is how she saw it.
Right.
The man he killed, Charles Babagallo, had refused to tell Hilbin where Kim was hiding. That's why he got shot.
Oh.
He was actually Hilbin's best friend.
Oh.
And so that's why he went to him and he said, I know she's here. Where is she? And so, in my opinion, he died a hero.
Yeah.
Because he didn't give her up. So he said he'd killed his mom to spare her experiencing the apocalypse. We've heard that one before. Like, I didn't want my mom to... Charles Whitman wasn't he killed both his wife and his mother, if I remember correctly, because he didn't want them to have to deal with the repercussions of his actions or some crap like that. The dog was killed because it tried to protect his mother.
Of course.
He was found guilty of the crimes. His lawyers claimed he had schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, but he was ultimately given several life sentences in prison, not put into a... So they found him guilty, and then they had to go through the process of seeing, but is he sane?
Right.
And they found that he was sane enough. And he was ordered to pay $10,000 restitution into a victims fund in the state. In July 1990, I don't know how they do that, I guess. Or if you're going in prison, you can maybe have assets to liquidate. But
yeah.
In July 1995, Bruce Clark, who had no disciplinary action and was known as the Cat Man because he cared for strays, got into a fight with a supervisor, punched him in the back of the head, then left. He returned with a paper bag, and the supervisor said, "What's in there?" And it was a gun. He shot his supervisor, James Whooper, in the face and chest, killing him. 2 fellow employees attacked him and wrested the gun from him, ensuring there were no other casualties. So nobody knows if he would have gone on to shoot anybody else. He was sentenced to 22 years in prison. In December 97, in Milwaukee, Anthony DeCullett got cited by his supervisor, Joan Chitwood, for sleeping on the job during his night shift. He hated the night shift and had been applying to get a day job, but he was turned down. He took a piston to work. He took a pistol to work and shot Chitwood through the eye, then killed another employee who he had argued with in the past, Russell Smith, then injured another person. Coincidentally, a police officer was dropping off mail at that time, heard the shots. He was able to pull a gun and order DeCullett to drop the weapon. Instead, DeCullett turned the gun on himself and shot himself. I believed with him, but I didn't write it down that he put it in his mouth. So with these sprees popular in the news, the post office took action, actually. In 1993, they created a position called Workplace Environment Analyst to help improve workplaces to avoid violence. And the Postmaster General commissioned the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse in 2000. The thing is, the report turned out by this department showed that, quote, postal workers are no more likely to physically assault, sexually harass, or verbally abuse their coworkers than employees in the national workforce, end quote. It went on to say, quote, postal employees are only a third as likely as those in the national workforce to be victims of homicide at work. Sadly, due to the publicized issues, postal workers were found to be, quote, 6 times more likely to believe they were in danger from other coworkers, end quote, and had no confidence in their supervisors to do anything about issues. So they were found to actually feel they were more likely to be victims and that nobody could do anything about it, which is not great for workplace morale. And I got this information from that today. I found out. And so this is a quote from them. The most astonishing finding was that workers were more likely to agree that managers and supervisors try to provoke employees to violence when they questioned people who worked in the postal service. That was interesting. Other facts from today I found out. Out of 6,719 workplace homicides between 92 and 98, 16 were postal related. That's all. Out of a large number. Workers in the retail trade are 8 times likelier than postal employees to be victims of homicide at work. Taxi drivers are 150 times likelier than postal employees to be victims of homicide at work.
Wow.
So, in short, despite the fact that these shootings were very visible and made it look like working for the post office was going to war, and they were dire enough in the news that they created this piece of slang that some of us, me, still use. Postal workers are no more likely than anyone else to go postal. And I wanted to end it on that note so that I don't continue the stereotype. So I imagine, though, that because they created these departments and the report and all of that I mentioned before, that some good came out of the shootings ultimately in improving the workplace at postal offices and making higher ups pay attention, Because it's
That
a
is a good
huge
thing.
percentage of our workforce, probably, for the Postal Service.
Yeah.
And it's a federal job. And so they need to be making it a better place to work. So
Agreed.
that is the origins of going postal.
That was much less blood curdling than you usually do.
You're welcome.
Every once in a while, my friends throw me a bone. So, what I'm going to talk about today is
We're on a roll.
Is again mayhem. You know how I am. How I love me some mayhem. This is something that happened on a British Airways flight, and I have to give full credit to Thing 2, who comes downstairs and goes, "Oh my God, I have to tell you about this." And then she comes back to because she hadn't finished listening to it. And then she comes back and she goes, "Oh my God, here's the rest."
Here's more.
And she sent me the link so I could start researching it. And I was like, I have to talk about this because it's just astonishing. So my sources are the New Zealand Herald, a YouTube documentary, which didn't have easily who made it, but it was a British recreation. It was like a dramatization of what had happened. And of course, I checked Wikipedia. You kind of have to. So, June 10th, 1990. See, not even 1910. There are no hatchets in this at all.
Damn it.
British Airways Flight 5390 was flying from Birmingham, England to Malaga, Spain. Malaga?
I remember.
I apologize. I didn't take Spanish in school, so this was a routine flight. It was a couple hours long. The crew, the stewardess and the two stewards and the pilot all knew each other. They were all on a first name basis. Tim Lancaster was the pilot, very experienced pilot. The co-pilot was Alistair Atchison, and he was new to the group. Now, he was not a new pilot, but he was new to this group. The plane had some maintenance the day before, so the co-pilot walks around the plane and does a visual inspection. The captain goes through the log and everything looks normal. Everything's what it's supposed to be. The pilot comes on and he says, "It's a beautiful sunny day in Malaga." There were 81 passengers and 6 crew. And again, 2-hour flight. And a lot of these people were regulars. One guy lived in Spain and his grandchildren and his mother were still in England. So he regularly took this flight back and forth 2-3 times a year. No biggie. So after a routine takeoff, the plane was set on autopilot. The captain unstrapped his shoulder harness and his seatbelt to be comfortable. The steward came in and took their orders for tea. And for breakfast, because it's first thing in the morning. And then, as they're still climbing to their cruising altitude, the windscreen in front of the pilot pops out.
Yay! That sounds awful.
Just boom, gone. And I have to say, in my imagination, because a friend of mine, hi Frida, years and years ago, she had a Toyota Starlet with a sunroof. Mm-hmm. And she was driving down 44 in Virginia Beach with... believe it was with Miles, and he said, "Hey, what does this do?" And he pops open the sunroof and it just flew off.
Oh,
he just did the latch to open it. It shouldn't have, but it just popped off and flew back and shattered in the road. And it's so that's in my mind when this windscreen pops out. Of course, it's much worse when you're at several thousand feet of altitude.
Airplane going faster.
You're in an airplane. So the pressure, okay, so a few things happen when the plane depressurizes. So the pressure of the plane is pushing out. Mm-hmm. So the pilot, it flings the pilot forward. And actually the door to the cockpit or the flight deck blows inward. And he is flung out the window. Oh, no. Fog immediately fills the cockpit. And that is normal because it's too cold for the water to stay in the air. The steward, who's closest to the door, fears a bomb has gone off. So he kind of comes running up. So on his way out the window, the captain's legs have tangled in the controls. And so it's done 2 things. He's hit the control bar and knocked it down sending the plane into a dive. He's also jammed the throttle so that the speed is increasing, and it has disengaged the autopilot. And the debris from the door has also tangled, so that's adding to this.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, and the co-pilot is fighting for control of the plane. So he can't do anything to help the pilot.
Right. It's, do I let the whole plane go down or do I save one dude? Exactly.
So, yeah, the steward was like, I come forward and I see the captain's legs. And that's, I mean, so he jumps into the cockpit and grabs the captain's legs, holding on to prevent him from flying all the way out of the plane. And the rest of the captain is kind of flopping outside. It's actually, at this point,
Did it look like my daughter doing the skydiving?
No, I misspoke, because when he first goes out, he's back over the...
Oh, yeah.
Over the top of the plane. He's bent back over the plane, and he's being blasted by 390 mile per hour wind, and the temperature is minus 17 Celsius, and I apologize. I was going to convert that to Fahrenheit, and I forgot. It's fucking cold. It's fucking cold. So Atchison, the co-pilot, is radioing for help. I mean, but because of the wind, he can't hear. Mm-hmm. They might be telling him what to do, but he cannot hear. So the plane is still plunging downward, and they're talking about how busy this airspace is. And he's going through the busiest altitudes. So what he does... I don't even know how anyone could have the presence of mind to do this. He keeps the plane going down.
Yeah.
Because this particular model of airplane does not have enough oxygen for everyone. Doesn't have enough oxygen masks. So he has to get low enough so that they're not all going to be oxygen deprived.
Yeah.
So the head steward comes in and he wrestles the broken door out. A lot of airplanes, maybe all of them, I don't know, but have a jump seat, which is a seat that folds down in the cockpit. So he gets the jump seat down and loops his arm through the seat belt to provide an anchor point before grabbing onto the other steward. And they manage to get the captain's feet untangled. At one point, they're holding onto his ankles.
Yeah.
And he's just... outside.
He's bent backwards, freezing to death.
Yes. So he continues the dive, Atchison, aiming to get to the lower altitude. As they reach 11,000 feet, so that's kind of where they're able to level off a bit at 11,000 feet. And the captain at this point, he's no longer above the cockpit. He kind of slides around to the side. And he's banging against the windscreen on the side. His shirt has blown off from the force of the wind. He's bleeding. He's unblinking. They're like, he's dead.
Yeah.
We need to let him go.
Yeah.
But Alistair Atchison, the co-pilot, I start calling him Alistair. We're on a first name basis. He tells them to hold on, because if they let him go, he could either hit and damage the wing or he could be sucked into an engine.
Yeah, and he'll just fuck him up worse.
Which would fuck him up way worse.
Yeah.
So they're holding him.
They're holding the popsicle.
They're holding the Captain Popsicle. So when Alistair is finally able to hear air traffic control, he asks if he can land at Gatwick, because that's an airport he's really familiar with. And they're like, no, Southampton is closer. You need to get down as soon as possible. And he gets this. He doesn't argue or anything. He's never landed there before. And apparently, I learned a lot about how planes are landed. Apparently, in an unusual situation, what happens is one person is flying the plane and the other is looking at the maps and the charts. Mm-hmm. There's no one, the person who would be doing this is out the window. And so are all the maps and charts. They've been sucked out the window as well. So air traffic control goes, so you've lost pressurization. Is that the only problem? And Alistair replies, no, the captain is half out of the plane and dead. And the air traffic controller thought, and they have interviews. This You should really watch the documentary because it's kind of amazing. I thought in parts it was a little overacted, but it's really kind of amazing. And the mock-up they did of this, you have to understand, these are not real photos of, but they have an interview with the air traffic controller, and he said, this doesn't happen in real life. He was like, no, this is not real. This cannot be real. So, and he tells them, I have alerted the airport. They are in full emergency status because the plane is still full of fuel because it hasn't flown. It's only 20 minutes into the 25 minutes in when this happens. So it's still full of fuel. So it's heavier than it would normally be when it lands. And this particular model of plane can't dump fuel. Mm-hmm. So he has asked if he can have a 2,500 meter runway. And he is told that the maximum that they have is an 1,800 meter runway. Because he's worried that it could pop the tires. Yeah. It's going to be much heavier, and he's not going to have as much room as he thought. So they get him in. He can visually see it. It is a picture perfect landing, which is absolutely amazing. The body of the pilot is removed, and the passengers are led off the plane. And I mean, they have to lead the co-pilot off because they've got the blanket around him, and somebody's got their arm around him, and they're leading him off because he's just a fucking mess.
Shock. B, it's fucking cold in the cockpit too.
Yes. So, as it turns out, the EMTs only thought they were removing a body because the captain starts to regain consciousness in the ambulance, which is just, I think that's magnificent. This dude was flapping around outside the fucking airplane, and he lived.
The cold helped like slow heart rate and stuff like that, and him passing out meant he wasn't tensed up against it, and I could see the conditions actually making that happen.
What happened was when he first blew out of the plane, the force of the wind, and he was on his back, the force of the wind kept him from being able to breathe, but he was able to turn his body a bit. So when he turned his body, he could break that flow of air, so he was able to keep breathing. The damage that he sustained was a fractured right arm and wrist, a broken thumb, bruising, frostbite, and shock. Yeah. That was it. Yeah. Within 5 months, he was back flying for British Airways again.
Woo! I don't know about that part.
The co-pilot continued to fly for British Airways. One of the stewards left. 2 of the stewards kept flying, or 3 of the stewards kept flying, except one of them couldn't fly in that plane. Because
First of all, I'd be checking every windshield or whatever it's called.
This particular one, normally they're bolted from the inside. And actually the pressure helps keep them in place. This particular model, it was bolted in from the outside. So the investigation began immediately. And they were able to rule out a bird strike, bird hitting it. And they found the maintenance log, and they went to the British Airways service bay, and they had to wait until the technician who had worked on the plane came back to work because he worked nights. And they discovered that, while they're interviewing the technician, he's going, no, I did this. And he's very concerned because he did it everything the way he knows how to do it. And I mean, he's horrified. The windscreen has been recovered, and several of the bolts that held it in. And the bolts were one size too small in diameter. So we're talking 2/100ths of an inch too narrow. Because the bolts that had been holding the windscreen on for the last 4 years were also the wrong size, but they were just large enough to hold it. So he did an eye match. Yeah. And thought he had found it. But it wasn't right. But here's what happened. When they started interviewing this guy, after that first time, they went back and interviewed him. They had him meet them at a hotel, like in a conference room. And they interviewed him there. They gave him coffee. And they had a behavioral psychiatrist there. Therapist. Fuck. And
a counselor even.
Yeah. Because they had used behavioral psychology to study pilots and crew. They had never taken them to the maintenance bay. And what they were able to uncover was some very stressful situations that led competent, knowledgeable people to make errors. And it was like several small errors that just compounded. And there was too much work for the number of people, and they were in a hurry. And this particular airplane, when it was serviced, it had gotten pushed to the side of the hangar. So he was on a ladder at an awkward angle trying to work on it. And they believed that when he put the screws in, he couldn't see that because of the angle,
spinning,
that they weren't seating right.
Yeah.
So this actually did lead to some changes in the maintenance bays, where they're working on the planes for the best. But I can't even, now you know why. Thing 2 came running down the stairs. This pilot flew out the window of the plane and they're holding on by his ankles. And they really were. I mean, it was a horrible thing with a happy ending.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, everybody, and they all thought he was dead. The co-pilot and the captain, he thought he was dying.
I'm sure he did.
I mean,
he knows that how it works is his co-pilot can't do anything about him because he's trying to fly the plane.
Exactly. And they all got medals and...
Good.
In the interview with the pilot, he's like, "Oh, I love to fly." And after he went back to British Airways...
It was incredibly freeing for a few minutes before I got scared.
Before I hit the ground. It was great. He retired from British Airways and then went to work for one of the small regional airlines so he could keep flying.
You got to go work for Qantas because they're still like the only ones that have 0 accidents under their belt or something.
It was just crazy. And you're like, well, I bet he didn't take his seatbelt off.
Near.
That fasten the seatbelt sign?
I'm telling you, I would have been pushing on the windshield each time, buckling in, bringing my own strap to put around my waist in the seat.
I don't think I realized that pilots have the lap belt and shoulder straps. So why would I know that?
Movies.
That was a detail that has escaped me.
Oh. That's because you don't have ADHD.
This is true.
Truth.
I do notice odd things. But not that. I could tell you how he took his tea, how the co-pilot took his tea, but because that's important.
Yes.
How he takes
so
his
important.
Because the guy, this steward comes in, he says, "The captain, you'll have your regular," and he looks at the other guy, "Oh, light with 1 sugar, please." And everybody's just la la la. Is this going to be great?
This is lovely. It's tea time. We're just going to fly our little flight, and everything will be just fine. Because it doesn't happen.
I love that, the air traffic control. This can't be real. This doesn't happen in real life. This only happens in movies.
Where do you think fiction gets its ideas?
Right. If we wrote real life, because here's what happens every time you put something in faithfully recreating all the details of something you witnessed or for a fact happened, and your beta reader comes back and goes,
"It's not realistic.
It's not realistic. I don't believe this." And you're like, "That's how it fucking happened."
Yeah. Yeah.
It happens all the time.
No. All right. Well, we did a lot of mayhem. I feel like even the postal shootings were...
That was a lot
deadly mayhem, but mayhem all
It wasn't a mystery, really, because they knew who was doing it.
They knew very well.
You did murder and mayhem, and I just did straight mayhem.
Yeah. We haven't done monsters for a while. I guess we gotta...
I guess we will need to.
Pump some of those out here soon. My Sasquatch with the package there is... Well, we have a question.
Yes.
And that question is... What's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you in a post office? And, of course, feel free to blur the lines, and if it's postal related, then we still want to hear it.
So have you ever had anything weird happen in a post office?
I try to avoid those puppies like nobody's business. So, no.
I was in a post office once here in Colorado Springs, and it was quite busy. It's quite full of people. There's a line, and I'm waiting. And this older gentleman comes in. And he's of Asian descent. And he looks around the post office. And I'm sure I had one, if not 2, small children with me. And I cannot tell you why. He decides I am the person who can answer all of his questions. I don't know why he thought maybe I could understand his language.
Oh.
I just was, what? I tried really hard. There's only so much you can mime in a post office.
It's true.
So I did try very hard, but I just thought it was so odd that out of all the people in the post office,
He looked at you and went, surely she speaks my language.
Yes. Or maybe he thought, she looks nice. She won't yell at me. I don't know.
Strange.
I have that aura of, yes, I will actually try to help you.
Officiousness. I know what I'm doing. Come to me. Come to me, children.
I always, that's my motto, is to always project that you know what you're doing, whether you have a fucking clue or not.
It's true. I get approached places too, and I'm just like, I don't work here. What part of the xenomorph on my shirt do you think makes me a Target employee? You know. So
do you remember when we were driving with Amy to Idaho? And we're driving along, and Amy goes, what is that white stuff in the field? It can't be snow. And I look up and I go, it's salt. And she goes, oh. And we drive on for like 5 minutes. And she goes, wait just a minute.
Wait.
How do you know it's salt? I said, oh, I have no fucking idea.
I don't know. I'm just giving you an answer. My problem is I do that too. And I've been trying to like stop myself and be like, they don't know that you don't know what you're talking about. And then I'll be like, wait, so I don't know if that's true or not. Stop it. So, all right. We ask that you
like us,
rate us, follow us, review us,
share us.
It gets us out there. You can go to our website at www.mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com and you can email us at mysteriesmonstersmayhem@gmail.com. We thank you, as always, for listening to us and helping us continue to grow. It's exciting seeing our numbers go up little by little.
Yes.
We're not talking shooting through the roof or anything, but it does help when you share and rate and do all of those things. Again, if you have friends who are published authors, it helps them too to do the same things. So,
yes. And if you know anyone who would like to sponsor us, especially anything food related,
it doesn't cost that much.
No.
Actually, you would be surprised if you ask us for appraisals.
Pretty much, if you sent us a pizza while we were...
Feed me. And, well, I'm yours forever. No, just kidding. But
pizza and beer, and we would talk you up like nobody's business.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.